and I feel that you're right that teachers are under a great
Thank
deal
you
of pressure
for
to be
clicking
perfect.
to watch my journey
And
video.
guess what? I
With
don't
all
speak
your
English
support,
perfectly,
I will
and I'm a
continue
native speaker.
uploading
So
my
I think
journey.
there's an
Enjoy the
unrealistic
path.
pressure on
Let's
people
go.
everywhere to speak another language perfectly, to be able to perform on demand, and that's just not realistic. Helping teachers confidence, giving them more confidence, giving them the strategies and techniques that they can use in the classroom can help. I don't think there's any answer other than, just as English is improving in Thailand, I can see it over the past 20 years. Things will continue to get better and better. And when we improve the level of English teaching, the next generation of teachers will have better English when they are actually teachers in the classroom.
Yeah, building confidence it sounds great and it's not easy to do, is it?
It isn't. And sometimes I feel sad about what I call the bias of the native speaker. And I've seen this in many countries, in many parts of the world. There's this concept that a native speaker is always the better teacher of English or French or German, of a language. And I think that I don't think that's true. I think that as a native speaker, as a teacher of English as a native speaker, I have advantages in terms of my sort of innate knowledge of idioms and slang and all of that
Because
stuff.
it's natural to
Because
you.
it's natural. Maybe my pronunciation, I can help with pronunciation. But I feel that native speakers are not overvalued. Thai teachers are excellent teachers. And we all know people whose English is perfect or almost perfect in Thailand who have never studied outside of the United States, outside of Thailand. They've learned to speak beautiful English in Thailand from Thai teachers. So I think part of maybe the lack of confidence is this concept that a native speaker is always going to be better. And that's just not true. That's just not true.
Yeah. So, well, when it comes to confidence, how do you help them like build more at the right amount in order to do their job better, like in the classroom? And how long would that take for like each teacher to develop that?
Well, I mean, I think you have to think about shifting the culture of schools themselves and the way that teachers are treated. And I'm not talking just about Thailand. I'm talking about the world. Teachers need to be nurtured. Teachers need to feel that they need to be recognized for the resources that they are everywhere. I think helping a teacher feel more confident might be through helping them, giving them more tools to use in the classroom, making them realize or hopefully helping them to realize that their contributions to education are just as valid as somebody that perhaps was born a native speaker of English, and that they have plenty to bring to the table. I know when I was first doing teacher training, I remember thinking, well, what do I have to teach the teachers here, right? What do I have? And I ended up spending some time when I first started doing teacher training, finding out what the teachers needed, and then just sort of working from where they were, mostly helping them with strategies for big classes. How do you deal with 45 students in a classroom? How do you get away from the teacher speaking all the time, moving more towards the student speaking? And so if you can help teachers develop these capabilities while you support them and respect their ability, I think that will naturally lead to increased confidence in the classroom. But it's not done overnight.
Right.
And it's something that takes a lot of time. And I think, the good principles of schools understand that and do that, giving teachers opportunities to develop professionally, give them access to workshops within their communities.
Give them time.
Give them time.
Right.
Yes.
So how do you measure the success of your work?
So that's very tricky because so much of what we do, the results would be very, very long term. Sometimes we can measure something like an attitude shift pretty easily. So when this bilingual teacher training, for example, we did a little survey beforehand asking, what was the teacher's confidence level in teaching English or teaching math through English. And of course, their confidence level was quite low. At the end of the training, we were able to say, what is your confidence level? And it was maybe medium. So that's a big win.
Yeah.
Attitude shift is something that we can measure in the short term. But in terms of the longer term, I am one of the few reloads that I think I can actually speak to some of that because I was a teacher here and now I'm back. One of my students at Princess Songkla University in Pattani is now herself a professor at Pattani University and is working in one of the programs that we administer called the Access Micro Scholarship Program. So seeing one of my former students become a successful instructor herself is extremely gratifying and something that most people in my position don't get a chance to see. So I think that's a win, and I see that as a symbol of success of the English Language Fellow Program. It does change people, and it creates different ideas about what it's like to be what it's like to work with an American. And I still have close friendships with the faculty that I used to teach with, 20 years later. So that is also a success because it is a cultural exchange as well. So we want the Americans that we bring to Thailand to get to know Thai people, but we want Thai people to get to know them as well. And when you build these relationships and these friendships that last 20 years, that is a huge success in my opinion.
Wow. So tell us other stories of what you are working on right now.
So we are working on we have tons of stuff going on. One thing that the U.S. government is focusing on a lot more is what we call DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and that's probably something for its own podcast, and I don't want to get too deep into it because I'm afraid I'll say something. I'm afraid I won't explain it clearly, but it's basically trying to give opportunities to every person, no matter their background, their physical abilities. And so one of the projects we're working on with a partner institution here in Thailand is working on teacher training for teachers who will be working with students with a hearing impairment. So students that go to deaf schools, their teachers who teach them English may not have a lot of strategies for working with that particular population. So we have an American academic with a specialty in working with students with different physical abilities. So she's going to come, do a needs assessment, look at the deaf schools, observe the classes, go back to the U.S. for a while, develop some workshop materials, and then come back here and actually train a cadre of trainers to work within teachers within that population. So that fits very well within our concept of inclusion and accessibility of educational experiences for all people.
Okay, let's say if there's one person come to you and he or she is about to enter or make a decision to choose what to study in university, and they told you that they were considering teaching English and they're Thai, and they asked you for advice or any points that you can give them, what would you tell them?
Well, I would say that being a teacher is the best job after my job. Okay, my job is the best job in the world. But after that, being a teacher it's extremely fulfilling. It's extremely gratifying to see your students progress and develop as people, as human beings. I taught 10 to 12-year-olds at one point in Chiang Mai, and watching those students develop not only in their English but also as they were growing up was very gratifying for me. I would say that if you want to be an English teacher here, be prepared for long hours. Unfortunately, as teachers, we all have. I always felt like I had to do something more lesson planning, more grading. So it does kind of consume you. It can consume you. I would say it's a calling. It's not necessarily just a profession, but it's something that is part of you as well. But I would highly recommend that people go into it if that's what they want to do, but know that the hours are long, but the benefits from a personal and professional standpoint are great. No teacher in this world is paid what they deserve. That's just that's just the truth of the matter.
Right. So
And-
what if they have made up their mind that they wanted to do this? This is their calling.
Oh.
So how do you help them prepare to become a teacher that suits today's world? Because it's a lot different from, let's say, 3 years ago.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
How do you see this profession progress or shift into like different way, and how would you help a young generation become a great teacher in the future?
That's a hard question. I would say that one thing that will never change, in my opinion, is that teachers are always facilitators. That the teacher is not the font. The teacher doesn't know everything. The teacher is there to help the students learn. The teacher doesn't know everything. The teacher is there to help the students learn, not necessarily tell the students what to think or how to do something. Especially with language, one of the benefits of a language class is you can really turn it over to the students. You give them, even beginners can try to use English in the classroom to construct meaning. So that should never change in terms of teaching. I think as technology develops, as things speed up more quickly, we all have access to so much information every single minute of the day. Maybe helping your students figure out what is a good source and what is not a great source. I would tell a new teacher that your job going forward is going to be not only as a teacher, you're going to be a facilitator, and it's going to be, I believe, your job to help develop critical thinking skills of the next generation, because as information comes more and more quickly, it's harder and harder to tell what is true and what is not, and how it's more important than ever to help our students